Hey guys, this is Dumais here, and today I wanted to kind of do a breakdown of this 2v2 game that I had today, earlier with my colleague. Actually, we're all colleagues, but I was playing with Zulu, and I was playing against Momo and Havoc, and we had a pretty good game where we had double Brits versus double Wehr. And today's video is mainly going to be about, kind of explaining the breakdown and why I did, certain things throughout the game. So let's get started right into it. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are dealing with two Brits, and I would say overall, I think double Brits is significantly better versus double Wehr. Mainly because of your early game. Your early game is really strong for Brits, with the recent buffs given to sections. Last patch, they essentially kind of always win against Grens, almost like at every range. So it can be very difficult to match their firepower at the start of a game. Also, the Dingo, it can be sometimes problematic. And obviously, you can go for a really fast Aussie as well. And these are all strong units when you're going up against, Grens, Piles, and even the MG42. So, from my experience playing in a lot of 2v2s on this patch, I feel like your best chance against Brits is to either go Breakthrough or Terror. I know Zulu always usually plays Breakthrough, so I decided to go Cloaked Machine Guns here with Terror. And as you can see, we're planting some sandbags over here on our cutoff. This is a pretty common area from the south spawn to kind of go up and harass, just like how this point is for the southern players. This is a pretty common, easy point to reach, and as you can see, it disconnects a lot of the key resources. So I'll capture this point, put some sandbags in, and I'm also going to go ahead and wire off the green cover just to make sure that the sections don't just sit here and exchange volleys. We're kind of doing the same thing here. Now you'll kind of notice I'm playing a little wide, but I do always have my Gren nearby a pile to a certain extent, in case the Brit player just casually just wants to walk up to my Grens and cover. So here I take this fight here. I just want to deal some decent HP damage. We don't get any model drops, but this is okay for now. We have some information, and this squad's down to half HP. And meanwhile, Momo's going to drive up his Dingo into my Grens. What you're going to want to do in a situation like this is whenever a light vehicle drives up to you, you kind of want to spam, you want to give a bunch of right-click commands or move orders behind the vehicle. And obviously, because this is a Dingo, it's facing forward. The MG can't rotate to get any extra shots in. So here I'm trying to move around on the side to get some nice side hits. And we're going to scare off the Dingo. Meanwhile, top side, this is a losing fight for me, but I want to stay on the point just to hold on to it for as long as possible. And I also have a machine gun coming in here to assist the Pioneers. Another thing I want to point out too is typically I will go machine gun as a third unit for my tier 1, but since I went camo machine guns, I can actually take the time and creep up the machine gun around and keep it cloaked. So I feel like you can go MG as a second unit. Typically though, I would recommend going MG as a third unit, just because if your opponent opens up with a Dingo, or you're playing against US and they have 2 scouts, they can easily spot your machine gun ahead of time. It can be very difficult to get value out of it. But here, since we can cloak, it's significantly harder to spot the machine gun, therefore we can get some more value out of it. So here the Aussies are going to be forced off. And as you can see, I'm always kind of trying to stick in teams of 2. That's because, like I mentioned earlier at the start, a lot of units for Wehrmacht at the start of the game were significantly weaker compared to their British counterpart, so you kind of need to concentrate your forces a lot more compared to the other factions. So here I'm going to go inside the building. I'm taking a lot of damage here, but again, I don't want to let Momo get to the cutoff. Meanwhile, down south, Zulu's doing his own thing, and he's doing decently well at the moment. And right now, in terms of our control on the northern part of the map, it's pretty much 50-50, but we have a slight lead since we're going to be holding on to the territory.
Field medics will be deployed at the headquarters.
So I like to go tier 2 as well, tier 3. I'm not a big fan of tier 2 in 2v2s, mainly because I find that AT guns are really effective at zoning out Verboens and Martyrs. And this is a pretty decent map for tier 3, there's a decent amount of shot blocking, and a pack can actually zone out quite a lot if you look at the areas that it could potentially cover. MG's gonna set up here, we're gonna force off the Aussies. He's called in artillery with the recce package. We're going to try to backpedal here. We don't want to retreat. We're going to eat a large chunk of damage. This is okay. Now we're going to be a little greedy here. And that's because we want to try to bait this dingo to try to flank the machine gun. And doing so means he's going to eat a Panzerfaust in the rear. And we should be able to finish this off with the MP40 and the 2 Grens nearby. This is kind of a really ballsy move, but it ends up paying off because the dingo will go down.
Victory point is under enemy control.
So, you know, decent trade, I guess. Now the big problem right now is that we're completely off the field, and same thing for Zulu. Now, Zulu's trying to get back onto the field, but right now, you know, the map is going to go red really quickly.
Our enemy has control over all victory points.
Next unit I go for here is going to be the Pack 40. We're now basically in the Humber timing, and as you can see, Momo has his Humber queued up, and it's now out. You could go 251, but if you look at the ammo that I have, I believe the stubble upgrade is, I think, 60 ammo or 70 ammo. I would much rather go for an AT gun and keep the ammo for the Panzerfaust in case the Humber tries to dive me. So I just prefer going with the AT gun here just to play it safe. I do have base heals. This is honestly a really good upgrade to get now. 150 manpower, no fuel. This is a really good deal. Highly recommend getting this. Don't get it too early, but just get it whenever you have a decent amount of manpower saved up. So here Momo's inside the building, and we're just going to fire onto the side here, and we're going to get some decent damage because there's only one window. And also I'm shooting it with the pack. You know, if I have a choice here, I'd probably rather destroy the building than keep it up for my opponent. And meanwhile, top side, we're going to force off the units. So Zulu here loses his Stummel, and now he's kind of in the danger zone. And this is kind of what I was talking about, you know, just momentarily. This is why I didn't go for a Stummel. It's expensive to get. And as you can see here, Zulu, because of our map control, it's not really too good. Zulu got the Stummel upgrade, but he now doesn't have enough ammo to go to finish it off with like a Panzerfaust. And, you know, as a result, the Stummel died. This is why I just prefer going for the AT gun. So Zulu right now, my teammate's doing really poorly. But luckily for us, you know, we're now back on the map and we pushed Momo off the field. So this is pretty good. Next unit I go for here is going to be a Panzer Grenadier. At this point in the game, when it comes to my resources, I'm floating a decent amount of manpower. Like I said, I don't want to go for a Stummel. I already have a pack gun. I'd rather get something to help out with the flanks, you know, and my idea is to kind of play the Panzer Grenadiers more as a reserve unit. And we don't have enough fuel to make Stugs, so I'm not going to go ahead and get this upgrade. I'm just going to get a Panzer Grenadier out. I think having one Panzer Grenadier is always nice to have. I don't think you necessarily want to make like 3 of them, because they could be very hard to use against Brits, because Brits are typically more of a long-range faction with Grens. They could be very painful to push into that with a unit like Panzer Grens. So for that reason alone, I decided to just get one. So here we hit a few mines, it's not too bad. We're going to go in and plant some mines ourselves. This is another thing I want to highlight too. If you're going to be playing tier 3, you're really going to want to make sure you have a lot of mines down. AT guns in CoH 3 are not as strong as they were in CoH 2 and CoH 1. There's a lot more emphasis on mobility in this game compared to the previous 2 installments. So if you are going to go AT guns, you really want to make sure there's a lot of mines down. So as you can see, I've got a common mine here on, you know, the cutoff point that you always want to harass. I got another mine up top here, just in case my opponent wants to go for the fuel. And I also have another mine over here, in case, you know, a light vehicle wants to attempt to flank or dive an AT gun. Also, with the way that my AT gun's positioned too, it's a little hard to dive this thing since it's so far back, and the avenues of approach are, you know, pretty much straight lines. So that's another thing to keep in account. So Momo's Humber's been repaired. Havoc has gone air and sea. Yeah, he's gone air and sea, and he's got a ammo cache on his point. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So I try to have my Panzer Grenadiers in ambush. You know, I'm expecting them to push the cutoff, but he can see me, so I'm taking a lot of damage here. And as you can see, my MG is also rotated because I'm expecting him to push the cutoff here, but it's not going to happen. So I'm going to rotate it around. Sappers are getting close. We'll scare them off. AT gun's also going to set up here. We're going to scare off the Humber as long as we connect, and we do, which is really nice. And in the meantime, over here, we got a section in the house. We're attacking from the side with one window, which means we'll win this. Grenade on the exit. Nearly kills the Brit section here. So here in the chat, Zulu basically says he's dead. His army composition right now is really bad. However, we've unlocked the Stug, and right now we're about to get a 9 or like a 10-minute Stug out if we take into account the production speed. A 10-minute Stug is actually pretty good, and Havoc also went for a Stuart. Now Stuart is a really good unit, but the Stug is actually very strong against it because, you know, the Stuart just doesn't pen it from the front. We also have an AT gun, so even though Zulu's army composition is really, really poor, our army comp is pretty good, and it's about to get significantly better because we're about to get a Stug out. And even though he's basically base pinned, I'm still holding on to the map right now, so we're still, you know, we are significantly on the back foot, but it's not over though, for the reasons I just listed. Like, I still have a decent army. We're about to get an assault gun out, so we're gonna be cooking for a bit. And this is what I point out to him. I typed to him, I'm like, hold up, I got a Stug on the way. Like, that Humber isn't going to be useful anymore. That Stuart, unless he spams like 3 of them, he's not going to be able to do a whole lot with it. So again, you know, I'm doing my job to defend the cutoff, because if I'm Havoc right now, the next spot to attack, if you are outside your opponent's base, the next point to actually go for would be the cutoff. And this is kind of what he's going for. Tries to kill the PGs, we get really lucky here. It somehow lives, gets caught into the machine gun, and now he's going to retreat through here. And if we still had our PGs, or our Panzer Grenadiers here, we could have actually had a really nice bundle nade on retreat. We probably could have wiped this Aussie here. So, there we go. So we now have our 10-minute Stug. And if we look at what the Allies have right now, they don't really have any good counters. Now, there is one AT gun, the pack that got stolen. There's a Stuart. But we have all the tools necessary to support our Stug in this push. So here what I'm doing, this looks a little like dangerous, but what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get an attack round shot on the Stuart. And then what I want to do is I want to use the Panzerfaust. The problem here is I'm not paying attention to my ammo, and I actually don't have enough. However, if this actually ends up working, if the shot connects on the Stuart and the Panzerfaust goes off, this Stuart will be crippled, and the Stug will be able to immediately take it out. But again, like I said, I noticed I don't have the ammo, and this Ren's probably going to go down. So again, attack round, connects on the Stuart. If I connect another shot here, we miss, but you know, the idea here is to really create distance, and we want Zulu to come back on the field here, so we gotta force all these vehicles off, and that's exactly what the Stug is gonna do. So just like that, these 2 tanks are gonna, you know, buzz off, and Zulu can now get back on the field, recapture the territory, and in the meantime, I'm gonna try to, you know, lock down my side with some tank traps.
An officer is being installed for our Panzergrenadier company.
So, next thing I do here is I get the officer quarters. Officer quarters will grant the Stug Vet 1. and you'll have access to point blank blast, which is a very strong ability. You have to be careful when you use it, but it really is a really great ability. It can, you know, two-shot infantry squads if they're bunched up really tightly on cover. So it's really a nice thing to have.
Our frontline pioneers are dead.
And as a matter of fact, I think we're going to use it immediately here because if you look at the section, they're all clumped up on the sandbag here. So I think I go ahead and pop it immediately. Or maybe not. Yeah, here I'm like, okay, I don't like this. There could be an AT gun over here, so this could be a bait. And here what I'm doing is I'm telling the Stug to shoot the truck so that we can kill the cover. And right now we got artillery landing on the Stug. Aussies hit the mine. My Grens are being focus fired. And now I just want to highlight like some high like micro tips. The bundle nade and the gammon bomb for foot guards in this game is a little special because they have the largest explosive blast in the game. You can kind of use this to your advantage. If I throw the grenade here, and as you can see, I throw it on the back here. You'll be able to learn this the more you play the game. You'll start to like just know where the retreat paths lead to. So obviously with the squad over here, it's pretty clear they're going to be retreating, you know, somewhere along here between the, you know, the rubble and the boxes. And what's going to happen here is most likely if I switch over to Momo, his squad's going to get the call out for the grenade. But they're not actually like in the circle, if that makes any sense. Like they're just outside the circle, but the game will probably make the call out. And Momo, as a reflex, is going to hit retreat, and he's going to land right on it. Yeah, see, grenade. And it's very weird because they, like I said, the circle, the model just died here, but the circle was right over here. So these guys, even though they called out the grenade, they were never in range of it. But this is something that you can exploit in the game. And as you can see, he's retreating right on top of it, and the squad will just die. So, if you're really good at timing your grenades on retreat, you know, getting like that one Panzer Grenadier can pay off really nicely. It's just these guys can be really difficult to use, but when you use them properly though, they're very good. And there's the 6-pounder. It's going to force off the Stug. We're going to back off here, obviously. We don't want to mess with that. But again, it's looking pretty good. We've wiped a section. Yes. I forgot to mention this. So, one of the things I do here is I went for an OP, and the reason I did this was because I'm at the point in the game where I'm not really concerned about the infantry. I'm kind of concerned about like the possibility of like dealing with multiple Crusaders. You have to be careful about this because British Tier 3 is very strong. Crusader train is, probably the easiest and the most common thing to do in team games when you're playing as Brits. And so I decided to make an OP because I wanted to get more fuel because I really want to get a second Stug out. Typically, if I'm playing Tier 3 and I'm playing against Brits, I want to make sure I have at least 2 Stugs by the time the first Crusader's coming out. Now, Momo doesn't have Tier 3 up right now, but he's very close to it. And the moment he's going to get Tier 3, he's going to refit this Humber. If this thing doesn't die, it's going to get refitted, and he's going to make like 1 Crusader instantly, and then a second one will follow up momentarily right after. Because Crusaders are not that expensive. I think they're only like 70 fuel. And meanwhile, the P4 for our faction is, 100 fuel. Super expensive. Honestly, not worth going for. If you're playing against Brits, I would honestly recommend just going multiple Stugs and stalling for a King Tiger or a Tiger. And that's pretty much what we're going to do this game. So that's why I made the OP. I want to get more fuel income so I can get that second Stug out. And we're now looking at a 13 minute, 20 second Stug, which is pretty decent.
Sector lost. Repeat, sector lost.
So here we need to be careful. I like to use my Stugs aggressively, but as you can see, Momo tried to throw a grenade here, so I'm going to back off. And keep backing off here, and the second Stug will come in and you know, be on the front lines. AT gun misses the Humber. Yeah, the OP will die, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world. It did its job. So now we're kind of getting to the stage of the game where tier 3 should be up for the Brit players, and it's going up now. And now if you look at the VPs, allies have a pretty big lead, so we need to start playing more towards center, and you're going to see the game will start shifting more from top side. At least for us, we're going to be starting to shift, instead of playing more this side, we're going to start playing more the center, where the +10 is at, because we need to start holding on to the VP in the middle and try to deny the top one from the Brit players. Another thing I want to point out as well, I don't do this all the time, it can be pretty micro-taxing, but when you have 2 Grens and you're kind of on the back foot, you want to make sure that you are min-maxing everything out of your manpower. So, the moment I got my first Panzer Grenadier out is when I actually turned off automatic reinforcements, and I'm always going to merge into my P-Gren. You really want to min-max your manpower. You want to make sure that you save every single manpower cost that you can. It's going to pay off massively in the later stages of the game, and that's what we do. So from this moment on, we're always merging into the other units. So very interesting. So Havoc gets a bishop here, and I didn't notice this till later in the game, but he does get a bishop. Pretty common, because you know they're so strong. And here I see an AT gun, and I decide to dive it because there's only one snare, and because he snared me before I took any other form of damage, we're not going to get crippled. So here we don't get the lucky D-crew, so we back out. Now we've got some information. We know there's 2 AT guns, a bunch of infantry around here. So we're going to back out completely and repair our tanks and come back in. And at this stage of the game, again, I get a Nebelwerfer here because I don't have enough fuel for another Stug. But I'm at the moment, but I don't really need a 3rd Stug right now because we haven't seen a Crusader. And so with that being said, it feels logical here to get a Nebelwerfer. Also, considering that we saw 3 AT guns, or 2 AT guns, Nebelwerfer here is a good call. Really good call. So, like I said, I didn't see the Crusader yet. I decide 2 Stugs is good. I'm now going to get Armored Skirts. I don't want to get a 3rd Stug if I don't need it, so I'd rather get Armored Skirts here, save on the upkeep of the 3rd Stug, and get this later if I need it. And now here's the first Crusader that we now spot.
Good hunting.
And like I said, we already have an AT gun and 2 Stugs. He's got 1 Crusader. I'm comfortable with this, so we don't need to get a 3rd Stug yet.
A machine gun has been destroyed.
So here, unfortunately, the MG will go down. And this is kind of the problem that I have, is I actually don't have enough infantry. But I can't really make more infantry, if that makes any sense. There's no point in making more Grenadiers, since they're not really that good in combat. Panzer Grenadiers, they're not that great at this stage, because they only deal damage to infantry. And we're at the stage where the Crusaders are going to be kind of problematic. So I decided to just get more Stugs after. The Stugs are decent against infantry, and they're very good against tanks, especially Crusaders.
Victory point lost.
And here, I get a second Nebelwerfer, and the reason I do this is because I didn't have enough fuel for that 3rd Stug. And again, because there's 2 AT guns, and a decent amount of infantry. We're now at the point of the game. I'm just going to pause here to explain this better. The reason I go double Nebelwerfers is because, like I said, getting an extra Panzergrenadier isn't going to accomplish much, because Panzergrenadiers, they need to hit Vet 3 to become really effective, and when we're playing against like Aussies and sections with training, it's going to be very difficult to get any value out of them, because they're just going to get picked off as they close in, okay? And again, like I just said, there's no point in getting a Grenadier here, because Grens, I already have 2. I already have the utility that they provide. Getting a 3rd Gren isn't going to accomplish anything. And I could get another Stug, but there's only 1 Crusader, and I still have an AT gun. I got 3 AT weapons, plus 2 Grens nearby for Panzerfausts. I'm confident with my ability as a player to fend off 2 Crusaders. If there's going to be 2 Crusaders for at least the next 2 minutes, I can fend that off with the AT platform that I have. So here I decide, you know what, I'll get a second Nebelwerfer, because like I said, we're now at the point where VPs are going to start to matter a lot. There's a lot of AT guns, and 2 Nebelwerfers being able to fire at different intervals on the VPs and the AT guns is going to be pretty valuable. Havoc has only 1 bishop, and he seems too preoccupied at the moment to be shooting at Zulu's units, that I don't think he's ever going to dedicate an artillery unit to counter-barrage my Nebelwerfer. So therefore I decide to get a second one. So that's why I do this. And it actually ends up paying massively. We'll see later as the game goes on. And like I said, we're merging, we're not reinforcing our PGs, we really want to be careful for manpower. We're also going for the Tiger, the King Tiger at some point. And so this thing is 800 or 700 manpower, so you really want to, again, save as much manpower as possible. Nebelwerfer number 2 is out, Stugs are repaired. And we're just going to creep up just a bit. And here we go, we're going to use the Vet 1 ability, and they're all clumped up. This could have been a lot more devastating, but we use our Vet 1 ability point blank. Look at that, that's crazy. Nebelwerfer is going to create some distance. So that's why we barrage this area, we force these 2 units to back off. So now the second Crusader is out.
Enemy points at 300. Confirm. Fire. The enemy has taken a victory point.
Another Nebelwerfer is firing. This time I think I'm trying to help out Zulu by shooting at the Stuart. And there we go, we got a big dive going in here, but we're going to scare it off. And this is what happens. If the Crusaders aren't upgraded, they're rarely going to penetrate the front of the Stug. And this is why the Stug is so effective versus Brits. Here what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to kill the 6-pounder. Because that is basically the hard counter to Stugs. Assuming they pen. Because they don't always penetrate, but... There you go, Stug number 1 is repaired. We're now going to repair Stug number 2. And there we go, now we're getting Stug number 3 because he does have 2 Crusaders. And usually there's always a 3rd Crusader that follows up, so... And also, given that we've killed an AT gun, it just makes sense here to go for another Stug G. We also are nowhere close to getting the King Tiger, so if one of these tanks dies, like it's fine. We can replace it, or you know, hopefully when the Stug dies, we'll make room for the King Tiger to fit into our army composition. As you can see, I'm always trying to reposition my AT gun. I want to make sure the AT gun is always with the Stugs to act as a support unit. It's very important. Stug number 3 is out.
Our adversary is pushing back. We are down to 250 points.
And we're going to use the Vet 1 ability. And look at that.
The enemy holds all victory points.
Denied. Oh, MG gets wiped too because we used the point blank. So as you can see, these things are very effective, very, very strong. Here, I kill my machine gun. I don't really want to pick it up because I want to make room for the King Tiger eventually. And if we take the MG, we're not going to have any room for it. I'm going to try to decrew the AT gun. So, one of the Stugs dies. Little unfortunate. That's what happens, you know, when you push an area without a minesweeper. It's not the end of the world, though. We have the other Stug nearby. So, we're basically, like, back to status quo, essentially. Because we're merging all the time as well, we're not really bleeding any manpower. So that means we can get another Stug immediately, right away. Point blank is probably going to be used here. Yep. Upgrading the machine gun. The machine gun on the Stug is always worth upgrading, by the way. It's one of the highest DPS machine guns for Axis when it comes to their vehicles. So, always worth getting.
The venerable King Tiger is standing by for
deployment. King Tiger is unlocked. And I think we're just going to try to stall for it as long as possible. We should be okay. Because like I said, we still have 2 Grens, an AT gun, and 2 Stugs. So we should be okay to survive a 2 Crusader all-in. Or even a 3 Crusader all-in if we get lucky.
Enemy forces have captured a victory point.
That was very lucky on my part. Gotta be careful here, he's gonna throw the sticky bomb. Yeah, so here, because I have a Stug that's really wounded, I was expecting to commit to an all-in, so... I want to discourage that by bringing the Stug forward. Let's hit that 3 AT gun. There's the Panther. Oh my god. Yeah, so Havoc gets a 17-pounder, and it actually takes me a while to realize this, but... And also Momo has an archer. And this is where the double Nebbles are going to come really handy. So... I'm going to explain another part here of my decision-making. Typically speaking, when you see something like the archer... you would think that, okay, King Tiger doesn't really make much sense because the King Tiger is just going to feed this thing experience. The King Tiger will never be able to get a shot back in return. That is true. That is true. The Tiger has, the least amount of range compared to all the heavies. However, it is, the King Tiger and the Tiger are the only heavies in the game, or they're pretty much the only tanks in the game that can one-tap infantry units. And that's what makes them so powerful. So yes, even though there's a 17-pounder, 2 AT guns, 2 Crusaders, and an Archer, I'm still going to get the King Tiger because with the army composition that I have, again, 2 Grens, an AT gun, 2 Stugs, what I can do is I can drive up to my opponent and shoot once or twice and potentially wipe their infantry. The Brits don't have anything like that whatsoever. Like, the Crusaders, they're good against infantry, right? But 2 Crusaders are not going to, instantly annihilate a Grenadier or a Panzer Grenadier squad. Not even close. You would need, 5 Crusaders to match the 1-tap or the 2-tap potential of a King Tiger. So my plan here is I'm aware that there's a lot of AT on the enemy team, but I'm not getting the King Tiger to fight tanks. I am getting it to drive it forward, get like one good hit on the AT gun or the infantry unit that I'm fighting, and potentially, like, I'm hoping that I get the roll where I basically one-shot it. The King Tiger is probably, and the KT, the Tiger and the King Tiger are fantastic when it comes to fighting infantry. Easily, like, the best tanks in the game for it. And so that's why I decided to go for it. Now, like I said, though, it's still hard. You got to be careful, but it's a fantastic unit to have. Here, the two Crusaders are pushing in. My Stugs are on the flank here. I have an AT gun on the side. This part was a little scary, but here I'm like, oh crap, the archer's firing at me. I'm like, okay, that's pretty dangerous. But there is an AT gun that's decrewed, so... And I did spot this. And my Nebels, again.
Victory point lost.
Oh, they're gonna do a lot of work.
King Tiger deployed.
The KT's out. Like I said, we're reinforcing the Grens, and then we're gonna merge into them. So Zulu points out they have a 17 pounder. I tell him it's fine. We got 2 Nebels. We're good. I got 2 Nebs. It's fine.
Strike fear into our enemy. Drive them from the field.
So right now, again, the VP situation is looking a bit dicey. So what I plan on doing, based on the information that I have, we know that there's a 17 pounder around here. The archer is sitting near middle. There was an AT gun on this side as well. Let's bring the King Tiger up top and secure this VP. And what this will do, right, is if the King Tiger is topside, it'll kind of force the allies to make a decision. They might just either sit on the middle and not move, or we might kind of like encourage them to kind of split up, and we might be able to like lure them towards me, and we might be able to like set up an ambush here with like the AT guns and the Stugs. So, but here instead I see the AT gun was never crewed, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and that's going to make our job a lot easier. Stug D's going to go down, rest in peace, that's a vet 3 Stug. And there's archer number 2. So here, keep in mind, I spot the flare, so I'm like, okay, let's just back up here. And this here, very questionable. I don't know why Momo would do this. I mean, he flared me, he knows the King Tiger's there, and he should know that the King Tiger is like a beast versus infantry. So I spot this, and going back to what I mentioned earlier about retreat paths, if you time your bundle nade, it will basically wipe anything on retreat. So this right here, this was like a free wipe. I saw this and I was like, okay, the King Tiger and the PG will wipe this. So I was like, this is dead. Let's just make some noise over here, and we'll deal with that section up top after. So here, my plan was to dive, but all of a sudden I run into double archer, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. No, like this is not gonna work. Luckily we get double bounce. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a little problematic. So the archers are going to do a good job of creating distance, but it's still counterable because we have the AT gun.
Our adversary is down to 250 points now.
I think I'm going to try to squeeze another AT gun into my army composition eventually. Yeah, so here's the section, completely overextended, like this is dead. Bundle nade on retreat, main gun from the KT, this is dead. Like, look at this. There you go. Crusader is going to try to make an attempt at pushing in. Now again, I'm going to try to use the buildings here to my advantage. I know there were 2 archers over here. Chances are they're going to be like facing this direction. So if I park my KT behind the watchtower here, I should be able to get some shots in, and he won't be able to do a whole lot because he's going to have to rotate. And if he rotates, my Stugs and my other units can rotate on the flank. But that's not what happens. He just nukes the AT gun. This is fine. I'm going to go ahead and replace that immediately. Because the AT gun will zone away the archers. So that's that was the plan there. Yeah, AT gun gets instantly replaced. And the Nebelwerfers, now keep in mind I'm micromanaging a lot of units, so I'm not constantly firing the Nebels, but I do hotkey them usually. Usually it's 1 and 2. And now we spot an MG, an AT gun, a 17 pounder actually. And the Nebelwerfer is going to start opening up on this.
Commandant, you have command. Park deployed.
Vet 2 Nebel.
Report, the Allies have only 200 points.
Vet 3 Nebel, oh my god.
Victory point is under enemy control. Propaganda bombs shall send the enemy cowering.
Stug goes in the middle, point blank, obviously.
We have lost control of a victory point.
So here I spot the Crusaders. I'm like, okay, he's gonna dive here for sure. Immediately rotate the AT gun. And now the King Tiger will move up a
The
bit.
enemy has taken a victory point.
So again, the way I'm positioning my King Tiger, I'm really trying, you know, I'm assuming that the archers are still somewhere in the middle. So I'm gonna try to approach from this angle, and I'm not gonna peek beyond the edge of the building. And look at that. That's crazy. So here's attack rounding through the building. This is really good. And here the okay. So this is the loiter from Air and Sea, and it is not as effective as the Luftwaffe and the DAC one. The trick against this loiter is to just keep moving. If you move your tanks and you change direction, typically the rockets they rarely connect on you. They do a lot less damage. If you're sitting here and you're not moving, they're gonna delete you. Because they do a lot more damage compared to the DAC and the Luft one. However, these are the easiest to dodge in the game though. So as long as you just keep moving, like I said, if you just keep moving, typically you can dodge them the whole time. That's the trick. And as you can see, I'm now gonna kind of shift my Tiger around. I'm gonna kind of move sideways. And I think by doing so, yeah. Oof. There you go. My tanks make it out. This is pretty big, honestly. And here, Momo's gonna try to go for a dive, and I'm just waiting for him to turn around the corner. And he just gets blown up instantly. So during all this carnage, we've been able to kind of stabilize the VPs. There's one that's neutral up top. We got the one in the center. That's really good. And then over here we also have the 17 pounder. It's vet 2, so if we decrew it, we're going to set it back to 0. This is so overkill, but... And again, the Nebelwerfers are going to open up right on the 17 pounder. This is pretty much like a very important item for the British players right now, so if we keep barraging it, we should be okay. And that's what we'll do.
Enemy forces have captured a victory point.
I'm actually surprised it's only 50 seconds for Vet 3. I thought it'd be a lot lower. So here we're going to repair our tanks. I'm going to repair the Stug first, just because they're more mobile, and I want them to kind of rotate wherever they need to go. So I'm going to repair the Stugs, and then the King Tiger after. Here we have Grens. And I think here we actually don't have to use merge. I think we could just reinforce them because we're floating anyway. We're pop capped, so it's whatever. And here, because the VPs are pretty low, I'm actually going to use the propaganda leaflets to force them back to base. There you go. And that's to just give us more time. And because of that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to order one of my Nebel Warfers to barrage the victory point. Or the MG. I think the MG is going to get barraged here. And again, another AT gun, because there should still be the 2 archers. Yep, they're still alive, so I'm like, alright, let's get another AT gun to, oh, we're pop capped though. Point blank.
Taken a victory point.
Stug dies, but I'm going to replace it probably right after. Okay, no, the other AT gun comes out. Oh, and here, yeah. I'm not too sure what happened. I don't know if this was a mine or a Panzerfaust, but this was pretty big. This allows me to basically push in and take out the vehicles. Stug reversing in combat, just ignore that. And look at that. Like, that is what I'm talking about. This thing just drives up and literally almost one-shots, you know, the Aussie squad. And that's what makes the King Tiger such a good vehicle. Such a good vehicle. As long as you have the army to support it, this, in my book, is probably the best heavy tank in the game. Just because, you know, the Vet 1 giving it the 25% damage reduction. You know, if you're behind, the King Tiger is probably the worst heavy, but if you actually still have, like, a good army, this thing is just a beast. Absolute beast. And just because of its ability to one-tap infantry like that. It's such a strong thing to have. It's a little silly, honestly. I don't think the Tiger and the King Tiger should be able to do that type of damage to infantry, but... What the... That was weird. Oh, here he's gonna get double Fausted. We got the ammo for it.
Command points must be assigned.
And meanwhile, we still have... Forgot about this AT gun over here, but I think you pretty much get the main gist of it.
Frontline report. The enemy has 75 points left.
Second AT gun's pushing up, but yeah, now he's just gonna get all in here from multiple angles. Point blank on the AT gun. Yeah, there you go. And now we're gonna take the AT gun and turn it around. We're gonna merge the Grens into it. And that's pretty much it.
The enemy has only 25 points left.
I think we just won. I think we just one-shotted another section.
Assault group is advancing. Grenadier squad has been destroyed. Seize the initiative. 10 points remain.
So yeah, guys, there you have it. That's kind of the breakdown here of playing double Wehr. I'm still gonna say double Wehr I think is weaker than double Brits. You know, there's some pretty big misplays I think from Momo on a few occasions, but I would argue that I think your most effective tactic is to go tier 3 into Stugs, and you want to go either Tiger or King Tiger. Yeah, you pretty much need these two heavies in the late game to deal with infantry sections, other forms of elite allied infantry like, LMG commandos, foot guards. Tier 2 is very strong, but typically speaking, this is kind of why like Axis needs to go for like a Panther or like a Tiger or King Tiger. Because you need something that can actually go ahead and kill infantry, and besides the verbal winds, there aren't really other units in the game besides Stosstruppen as well that can do this effectively. So I hope you guys found that pretty interesting, and I'll see you guys next time for the next game. Ciao.